Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Friday, the 27th day of June, 2025. And as we look at the latest developments from the 12-day war, the picture becomes clear. It has been a devastating defeat for Iran, and that's exactly what we expected, as we've been telling you, based on what the scripture says about its predictions concerning the time of the end. Now, again, for the biblical picture of Iran, Israel, Russia, and the United States, etc., please see the various books that we have on our website, Educating Our World, under the heading of Bible Prophecy. There are two of them here. 25 signs were near the end, particularly signs 9 through 11. You need to look at to see how Iran fits in the last days scenario with Russia, the United States, Israel, etc., as well as our more thorough book, the Ezekiel 38-39 Invasion, where we go into great detail, verse by verse, from chapter 33 through chapter 39. And so these are available to you. They're all free downloads from Educating Our World. Please take advantage of them. All right, here are the headlines today. Oh, also, too, just to mention, we forget to say this, we have a free app also, EOW with Don Stewart, available in both Android and Apple. And so you can get it that way on the website, on the YouTube page, or on the app. All right, here are the headlines. There's six important ones. First of all, top IDF officials sure Iran will try to make a nuclear comeback, but say they'll be ready. And that's the key. This is from the Jerusalem Post. U.S. demands Iran surrenders enriched uranium. This is Israel HaYom, and we really hope they follow through with this. They want them to surrender the enriched uranium they still have. Then from the Jerusalem Post, a story we've talked about over and over again. The insider IDF diagnosis, Iran has 2,500 missiles. It could have been quadrupled by 2028, at least 10,000 missiles the way they were going. This from also the Jerusalem Post. It's very important that we understand that. That's one of the reasons why this war took place. Now, in a very sad story, Iran arrests at least 700 Jews for alleged ties to Israel. It's also from the Jerusalem Post. We'll go into that and talk about what's going on there. Now, on the other hand, the IDF strikes south of Lebanon after Hezbollah attempts to rebuild fortification. The military says this is a Ynet story, and it's going to show the world that Israel's not going to take any nonsense from whether it be Lebanon and the Hezbollah, whether it be the Houthis in Yemen, whether it be Hamas in Gaza, because their sponsor, Iran, the head of the snake, has been taken off, and they are basically neutered from this 12-day war, as we will continue to talk about. And finally, an excellent piece by Victor Davis Hanson. He says, in the end, everyone hated the Iranian theocracy. That's so true. This is from his American Greatness website. All right, let's look at the headlines. Number one, top IDF officials sure Iran will try to make a nuclear comeback, but say they'll be ready. Jerusalem Post. In fact, top sources say they will be even more ready in the future. This is Israel now, given the confidence and experience gained from the war. Top IDF officials on Thursday said Iran will likely try to make a nuclear comeback after the recent 12-day war, but that they will always be ready to stop it again if need be. In fact, top sources say they will be even more ready in the future given the confidence and experience gained from the war. This message seemed to run parallel to Mossad Director David Barnea's message on Wednesday, when almost taunting to Iran, he told his Mossad agents, "We will continue to be there like we have been there." And this story is the key. There'll be no more allowing Iran to build any type of nuclear facilities again. Well, of course, they will try and may produce something here or there. The fact that and this is $1 trillion expense over the last 50 years has been destroyed and cannot be rebuilt. They've spent about $1 trillion, believe it or not, on this, and it's all gone up in smoke. Now, again, as we emphasize, this is precisely what we should expect to see if the scripture is what it claims to be, namely the word of the living God. Iran is listed, as we've talked about many times, in the last days invasion of Israel, according to Ezekiel 38, but only as a surrogate. Their attempt at military and terrorist leadership in the Middle East is over. Indeed, they cannot offer cover for Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis, or any other terrorist group. So this is the good news. Yeah, they're going to try stuff. We know that. We'll forget to talk about that later in Victor David Hanson's piece. But the point is, they have been neutered big time. Headline number two, U.S. demands Iran surrenders enriched uranium. This is from their website, Israel HaYom. As a precondition for signing any future nuclear agreement, United States and Israel are demanding that Iran hand over all enriched uranium in its possession that was not destroyed in recent strikes. The implicit threat, failure to comply, could trigger renewed military action. Both countries fear Tehran may attempt to use its stockpile to develop a dirty bomb, and it's not beyond them to do something like that. All right, we hope and pray that Israel and the U.S. will indeed follow through with this. They need to dictate the terms rather than let Iran pretend that they have some type of leverage now that their program has been destroyed. Iran has no leverage whatsoever, and you need to take advantage of that. All right, headline number three. So I'm also from the Jerusalem Post. Insider IDF diagnosis. Iran's 2,500 missiles could have quadrupled to be 20, could have quadrupled by 2028. IDF intelligence estimated that Iran would jump to 6,000 missiles by August 2027, 8,800 missiles, and jump to 6,000 missiles by August 2027 to 8,800 missiles. And following that rate, it would have reached 10,000 missiles sometime in 2028, just 3 years from now. Although the most important question following the Iran-Israel war is the status of Iran's nuclear program, close behind, and again, this is crucial, is how much the IDF and the Mossad have taken down Tehran's ballistic missile program. Because remember, you have to have two things. You have to have the weapon, the ordnance, but you also have the delivery system. And if the delivery system isn't working, you don't have fuel for that, then you're not going to have an effective weapon. So, according to the top IDF sources, by the time IDF attacked on June 13th, the Islamic Republic not only had 2,500 ballistic missiles, more than the 2,000 most frequently numbered reported. It was not only on the way to building a new facility for mass producing ballistic missiles, but the facility was so far along that IDF intelligence estimated that by 2026, the 6,000 missiles would jump to 10,000 sometime in 2028. Now, we have mentioned this before, and the reason we do this, it's further reason as the evidence comes out for the war, that why they had to take it to Iran, not only because their nuclear facility, but because of the missiles they could send. And remember, these missiles, some of them were long range. Many of them could hit Europe. And that's what they were developing. And they're also developing an ICBM that could hit us here in the United States. Well, that's all gone now because anytime they try and develop something like that, their missile program, they start experimenting with this. Believe me, Israel and or the United States will make sure they don't continue. All right, headline number 4 is heartbreaking. Iran arrests at least 700 Jews for alleged ties to Israel. This is from the Jerusalem Post. 6 additional people have been executed on suspicion of collaborating with Mossad's Israel's public broadcaster KAN News noted. Now, this is a total heartbreaking story, but not in the least surprising. And hopefully someday, the stories of these heroes will be told. Right now, there's reasons we can't go into a lot of detail about what's gone on the last several decades in Iran, but just rest assured that there are a number of heroes there, and many of them are paying it forward with their lives right now, who have been there, who have been working against the regime, have been working for freedom for the people of Iran. And sadly, many of them now have been taken, tortured, executed. 700 at least have been arrested, and we'll see what happens from there. So please pray for them because it's a heartbreaking story because these people are heroes, the ones that stood up to Iran and helped with all these accidents that were going on with the Mossad, helped with the Mossad with these accidents in the last 2 months with Iranian assets. All right. The next headline, IDF strikes South Lebanon after Hezbollah attempts to rebuild fortification, the military says. Now, this is a crucial story also. Explosion from 12 strikes around the village of Tebnit, heard on both sides of the borders. Site first destroyed during Israel's war with Hezbollah. IDF says Hezbollah was violating the ceasefire. In other words, they were trying to rebuild this fortification there in southern Lebanon. And now Israel's going to continue this sort of response to Hezbollah, the Houthis, as well as finishing up in Gaza. They will indeed have secure borders for a while, just as the scripture says. And as we always deal with here, we start with what the scripture says the end game will be. We work our way back and we say eventually there will be secure borders for Israel on the north, on the south, and they will not fear Iran, of course, so they would think they're okay. And that's when the Ezekiel 38-39 invasion takes place, when they think, as they've done in the past with the Yom Kippur War in 73, as with the Hamas raid there in 2023. Same thing's going to happen sometime in the future. All right. Now, our last headline, this is an excellent, if you can get a chance to read the whole thing, editorial from Victor Davis Hanson. In the end, everyone hated the Iranian theocracy. Well, ain't that the truth? It's hard to even digest the incredible train of events in the last few days in the Middle East. Boy, isn't that the truth? It's all of us sitting back trying to digest all these wonderful things that took place. Iran has been reduced to an anemic performance art missile attack on our base in Qatar, the last Parthian shot from a terrified regime desperate for an out and a ceasefire. Iran would have been better off not launching such a ceremonial but ultimately humiliating proof of its impotence. Even worse for its theocracy, Iran's temporary reprieve came from the now magnanimous but still hated Donald Trump. And he says, so ends the creepy mystique of the supposed indomitable terror state of Iran, the bane of the last 7 American presidents for over a half of a century. For Supreme Leader Khamenei, it's hard to swallow that the U.S. bombers got their permission to fly into Iranian airspace from the Israeli Air Force. As after the war realities now simmer in Iran, the theocracy is left explaining the inexplicable to its humiliated military and shocked but soon to be furious populace. All the regime's blood-curdling rhetoric, apocalyptic threats against Israel, their goose-stepping thugs, and shiny new missiles ended in less than nothing. $1 trillion and 5 decades worth of missiles and centrifuges are now up in smoke. That money might have otherwise saved Iranians from the impoverishment of the last 50 years. And how about the little Satan Israel, to which Iran has for nearly 50 years promised extinction? Israel has destroyed Iran's expeditionary terrorists, Iran's defenses, its nuclear viability, and the absurd mythology of Iranian military competence. And even worse, Israel showed it could repeat all of that destruction when and if it's necessary. So, the most hated regime in the world crawled into the boiling pot because it looked around in vain for someone to avoid Donald Trump's ultimatum to cease and desist. And here's the key. There were no last minute saviors to rescue them. Not China, not Russia, not anybody. Of course, as he says, in the Middle East, there's never a real end to anything. We'll see freelancing, well, we may see, but we will. We'll see freelancing terrorists try to fill the vacuum of Iran's decline. Or Iran itself may try to let loose a terrorist cell. It may later boast it has hidden away some enriched uranium. And again, the worry that we've had, and we continue to mention here in the United States, there's some 1,800 of these Iranian terrorists in various cells that we're trying to root out. And they may do something because their country has been reduced, and they are murderers, they are terrorists, they are here for a reason to, confuse everything and try and hit the United States and again now is a great time for them because there's total defeat with respect to the nation. We trust nothing will happen, but they are here, and we've had everybody, Christy Noem, Pam Bondi, the FBI, all warn us about them. Okay, but anyway, like you said, no matter the dimensions of this new Middle East will persist no matter what kind of terrorist small attacks come on. The new reality is that either Israel or the U.S., if they keep their earned confidence within proper limits, can now ensure a non-nuclear Iran by easily blowing up its costly nuclear program as often as rebuilt. And that's the key. They start rebuilding again, or just blow it up. Well said. This is our comment now. This is where we stand right now. And as far as the future holds, we know from Scripture where everyone will eventually line up. In the interim, like we always say, we must closely watch and see what transpires. And as always, we will keep you posted. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.